Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to Thinking Out Loud Live. My name is Ricardo Zillueta. I am the host for today. This show is made possible by Start Day One, which is a nonprofit foundation for mental health and suicide prevention. And one of the reasons we do this is because we have a kind of a different approach in the way we handle mental health. We have a more proactive approach. We've learned that a lot of organizations and different people basically are more reactive. They kind of wait for mental health issues and suicidal tendencies to happen, and they just react to it. And we believe that any type of prevention requires a more proactive approach. And so, one of the things that we've learned is that changing people's perspectives in the beginning actually helps out a lot more. And that's why we have these shows where we can actually talk to different experts in the mental health arena, even entrepreneurs, inspirational people, just to help people change people's perspectives and help them out. And so we actually have an awesome guest today, which is an awesome subject. So in this episode of Thinking Out Loud Live, we invited Maureen Scanlon to learn how you can actually take inspiration from animals and make the most of your life and nurture your relationships. So she's actually the founder and CEO of Maureen Scanlon Life Coaching. She's an author, relationship expert, motivational speaker, positive change integrator, and spiritual coach. Uh, she's actually successfully helped many people, from experienced young professionals to mature middle-aged adults, and has worked with individuals, couples, families over the years to make positive changes to overcome past experiences and negative thinking. She's the author of My Dog is More Enlightened Than I Am. Enlightened Than I Am. She's very passionate about teaching and guiding others to nurture the relationships in your lives, taking your lead from the animals in our world and unconditional love that they give. So, with that being said, I'd like to introduce to you Maureen Scanlon.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I was gonna do a Mrs. Doubtfire. Hello.
Hello, puppets. So, where
We
are you
have
calling
to.
from today?
I'm calling from Mesa, Arizona, which is just outside in the Phoenix metro area. So, and
Okay.
I still hot, still over 105 today. So I'm
Yeah.
waiting
So
for.
I'm sure our audiences are kind of curious just by the title alone, because I'm sure there's gonna be like dog lovers on this.
Uh-huh.
But before we begin, I want them. I know I gave you a quick intro, but I want them to hear from you. What's your background? Kind of where are you coming from? What's your story and how you got into the mental health arena, and basically what you're doing now.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I started out in nursing, believe it or not, and I was always drawn to helping people, and this started even in my youth. I always felt I wanted to help people. I would recognize things that just weren't right, and I wanted to do anything I could to help them. And I now understand that's the empath in me. And as I journeyed through life, I made a lot of choices that probably were not in my best interest. But learning now that with gratitude, I needed those experiences, so I was able to come to the point in my life today where I can help others, because you really need to sit across from someone who's been there and knows how you feel. So I got married very young. I had my first daughter at 19. We moved away from the States and lived in Germany for 4 years. My first husband was an alcoholic, and he was physically, mentally, and psychologically abusive. And the interesting part is that I didn't know that I deserved any better. And it really drew me to this journey over the last 30 years of realizing that we all need to believe in ourselves and what we are worth, and that we can have a choice. So in going through those things with my marriage and going through a divorce, and then I was a single parent of three beautiful children who are all adults now, and they also went through some mental health struggles as well. One was diagnosed with ADHD, one was diagnosed with bipolar. So I learned a lot along the way of through my children, through my own struggles, and what works and what doesn't work. And the reason that I started the life coaching is that it was outside of the normal arena of therapy and counseling, and that I would be able to use these unconventional methods and think outside of the box, because I found that was how I helped people best, was to come up with what worked best for them rather than following sort of this script of what has to be done. So my husband and I got married and we were on our honeymoon in Belize. And I know just a lot, I love to talk to people, I love their stories. And a lot of people were coming up to me and sharing their story, and we were talking about different things on the island. And it was sort of this epiphany moment for me where I realized, hey, people like to hear me and they're interested in what I have to say, and I'm interested in what they have to say in their life, and giving whatever assistance I can to help them realize how amazing they are. So I started a blog early on, and it sort of just progressed from there. Someone had said to me, I heard about this life coaching, and I thought, well, what is this life coaching thing? It was brand
Right.
new. And
Right.
I looked it up and I thought, well, holy moly, I've been doing that for 30 years. So maybe I should make some money doing that.
Right.
And it really was, it was just a dream to start the business. And the inspiration for the book is exactly as I state, is just watching my dogs. When I would go through a hard time, I work from home, so I don't have a lot of social interaction during the day. And I would be stressed out over something, who knows, a phone call, an email. And
Yeah.
I would just sort of, they would catch my eye, and I would look at them, and my Chihuahua Jade would stop and just spin around and chase her tail, just out of nowhere, just spontaneously. And I thought, well, don't you have the life? I just want to stop and chase my tail, So it kind of just grew from there. And I watched them and I thought, wow, why can't we be that easygoing? And that's where the inspired writing came from. And it really flowed from there, because most people have animals, and whether it's cats, dogs, iguanas or goldfish, they provide this love, this unconditional love, and they don't have these um, per se problems. they
Yeah.
they trust, they're innately pure. And we can look at that and really observe them and say, I'm going to be more like that today.
Yeah.
So it's evolved. And right now, of course, I'm doing the life coaching, and the book is doing very well. I'm happy to say we just received our fourth award today, or this week. So
Nice.
yeah,
Congrats.
for the first book, it's not too shabby. I'm pretty
Yeah.
happy. And shameless plug, we are starting a pre-launch for book number 2, which I have finished, and
Nice.
we are publishing that one in January. And that one is My Dog is My Relationship Coach.
Oh,
So
no way. That's great. So that's gonna be the next chapter there, huh? Or the next. Yeah, that's awesome. Part
yeah,
2.
we're
Well,
gonna
thank you.
keep
Yeah.
going.
So thank you for the great story. It's so interesting what you did there. And you know what's cool, and when I was talking to you, when you're talking about thinking about your dogs, there's a lot of things that we've discussed with when helping people in mental health, where I've brought that up because of what they can teach you. And like you said, there's so much to learn. I definitely would recommend it for anyone that has any kids, is having the puppy, because it teaches them that value of life so early on, and what conditional love means, and just really how to take care of someone else, without expectation or anything like that. And I think it's just a great teacher. Like, what made you like decide to write the book? Like, I know you got inspired, but were you like, I'm going to write a book about this. Like, what? How did you do that?
That is the craziest story. So, you know, when you grow up, Ricardo, if you have siblings, your parents tend to say, "Well, you're the artist, you're the writer, you're the
That's
crazy
true.
person."
Right.
Uh, so, in my family, my sister was very artistic. My brother was the editor of the high school newspaper, the college newspaper. He wrote for the Arizona Republic. So, never in my mindset did I ever think I wanted to write. It was never a dream of mine.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the cool thing about life. Sometimes you don't get a choice. You just do what comes.
Yeah,
You you
definitely.
you grasp the opportunity when it's presented. So I had
Right.
had headshots taken for the website, for the lifecoachmarine.com website. And my best friend, Linda, looked at those headshots and she said, "Oh, I just got this vision of that picture on a book." Now I could have been, "That's crazy. What are you talking about? I'm not
Yeah.
going to." And I didn't. It was the neatest thing, Ricardo. I just looked at her and I said, "Okay, I guess I'm writing a book." And
Nice. That's
yeah,
great.
it
You
was
know
the
what?
cutest
That's
life.
great. So it really just starts there. So to people that are watching, and we always tell this to people, that everything really just starts with a decision, and everything will follow after that. And people think you have to, yeah, but I don't know, Maureen, you have to research how to write a book and how do you publish. And once you make a decision, all that comes automatically. Automatic, right? What did you do? Were you like, oh my God, what do I do? Let me not start before making a
Yeah,
decision, right?
not at all. I wrote the book in 8 weeks. It
Wow.
Yeah, I mean
That's amazing.
that's how inspired it was. It was, and I stuck to this mantra, this thought process. I only wrote when I felt good. So
Oh, okay.
if I woke up and I was like, "Oh, I don't feel like writing today," I wouldn't write.
Yeah.
Why would I want to do that if I wasn't feeling at the most peace and joyful place? And I think it's life is that
But
way.
yeah,
We should do that, and everybody should do that in their everyday lives. If it doesn't
yes,
feel good, don't do it.
that's cool as hell. So, but in within the 8 weeks that you had that, right? Because obviously you're looking at your dog and all that stuff, just kind of trying to basically analyze the dog, right? Now, within the 8 weeks, when you were writing, is that when you were like, what's that dog doing now? Or did you have all these thoughts piling up for so long that you just put it down on paper?
That is such a great question. No one's ever asked about the process. So I love that you asked that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, yeah,
It was the neatest thing because it was just when I saw something, I wrote a chapter down. And I already have books 3 and 4 ready to go for the same
wow,
for the same reason. I just look at something that they do and then I relate it to a behavior that we as humans can do. So
yeah,
I would watch Jade, for example. I write in the book, Brody has this little skin thing on his nose, and we've had him
yeah,
to the vet. He's been on antibiotics, and it's just a skin thing. It's like a little sore, and every now and then it just kind of gets sore and it gets a little oozy. Ooh, that's kind of gross, I know, but every every single day, Jade, while Brody, the big Aussie, is laying on the ground, Jade will come up and lick his nose and clean it up for him. And
oh,
sometimes he's like, "Okay, leave me alone, get away," puts that paw up and just pushes her away. And other times he's just like, "Fine, all right, just do it." So
yeah,
it was just those little behaviors that I thought, wow, she saw a need to take care of her brother, and
yeah,
she was nurturing him, and he either tolerated her or he was grateful for her.
yeah.
That's the whole relation to
That's
the
really
animals and
cool.
us.
It's cool. One of the biggest thing that I tell people when it comes to talking about the basically relating to animals and stuff, I tell people that, especially the ones with bad childhood, and I tell them that we're all just puppies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that whether you like it or not, you get traits from your parents. Whether you hate them or you really love them, you always end up with some kind of behavioral traits from them, right? And so a lot of them, almost look at their parents, especially when they have a bad, relationship and stuff like that. They really take it very, very personal. And one of the things I relate to them, so they don't really understand what I'm saying, right? So I'm just like, for example, people say pit bulls, oh my God, pit bulls are bad dogs. It's like, I don't know about their bad dogs, bad owners,
Yes.
because I mean, if you haven't seen a pit bull cuddling with a baby, like you haven't seen anything yet. Then, well, I don't understand. So it's not the dog itself, right? It's how it was raised. It was its experience, whatever it is, whatever, even the classical conditioning that's happened, whatever it is.
Yep.
In any case, so I tell them, like, that's how you become you, right? It's all kind of put together. One of the things that I mentioned is that when you look at your parents, no one, not one parent has ever held a baby and said, oh my God, I can't wait to be really mean to you, man. Like, I am going to ruin your life. Oh, can't wait. I can't wait to be such an asshole to you. Like, no one does that, right? No one's that has that intention. And you have to look at your parents and say, they were puppies too. Like, I don't know what they went through. You look at yourself and like, oh my God, I'm this. But for someone to be like that, like, what do you think your parents went through? So they were puppies also. They were raised a certain way. They didn't mean to be that way to you. That's the way they were. That's why this pit bull is biting. It's not that it's a bad dog, it's what it knows. And that's all it really is. So that's one of the biggest things I like kind of mention to people. Is there something like a story that you kind of relate to people? Well, give me an example of how you kind of use the relation with dogs to a specific I don't know, situation where someone was going through, like whether it's
So,
anxiety or some kind of depression, I don't know, like
well, that there's, of course, they use equine therapy now for children with autism and any emotional trauma. They use that. I kind of giggle when they say this is my emotional therapy dog. Sorry, I don't know any dog that isn't an emotional therapy dog. So I don't
yeah,
know. I
right,
don't know why specific ones get a vest and some don't, because in my eyes, they're all emotional therapists.
yeah, that's true, they're good at it. Like
That's
that,
what that's what they're here for.
right.
That's really their
That's why they
only
all go to
job.
heaven, right?
That's their one and only job. You have one job and they do
Right,
it well. I would love to expand on what you had just said about the puppies and about the childhood.
yeah,
So, what I have found in the life coaching and in the psychology courses that I've taken is we have two choices. So, we can look at our childhood and we can do a blame game. So, I can
yeah,
take what my parents did and say, this wasn't right, and my life is going to suck going forward because of what you did. So,
yeah,
there's generational repetitions, right? These cyclic things that we just keep doing.
yeah, yeah, right,
Or I can look at my parents and say, I know you did your best. I don't like the way that you did this. I'm
yeah,
not going to do that, but I have gratitude that I learned that wasn't right. So we have two sides
yeah,
of mindset. I'm going to keep doing what I do because that's all I know. And I don't have the mindset to believe that I can change that. And it's either, nature versus nurture. So sometimes it is genetic, and there's
yeah,
a lot of the nurture part of it is just opening our eyes to say, if that didn't feel good to you, don't continue it and make it different. Make a difference for your children.
right, right,
I
exactly,
remember my parents, my father especially, since I ended up being a single parent for quite
yeah,
a while, divorce. And my father made this really profound statement. He said, you changed generations of mothers in our family. He said, this has gone back for many, many, many generations. He said, and not only did you change the type of mother that you are, you did
yeah,
it you did it single-handedly. You didn't have a partner to help you in that. And
yeah,
that was
that
so
requires a little,
rewarding. That was
I
so
mean,
it was rewarding,
no, that's difficult. Yeah.
and I don't blame my parents for anything. I
Yeah.
really don't. I look at them and I know what they did was the best that they could. I hope my
Right.
children understand I did the best that I could,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you have a choice. And I believed for so many years you have a choice. And what's
Yeah.
that saying? You don't know until you know. And once I
Yeah.
realized that,
Yeah, as we're talking about that, one of the things that people need to understand, whether whatever issues they're going through, is you really just need to take more accountability. Um, a lot of people that are in a bad place or a bad mindset, they tend to love excuses, including us. Like when we're getting a bad, really bad situation, you temporarily get into that, like, "Ah, man, if that freaking this and that, it wasn't your fault. It wasn't had nothing to do with you. Like, oh my God. And you just want to blame something, right? And you just
yeah,
want all these excuses. And as you get into a better mindset, the accountability gets better. You kind of go like, you know what? I got this. I'm now responsible for my own happiness and stuff like that. And that's kind of what it's like with, when you're growing up, like, and you were saying, like, that's why I say good job, raising single-handedly is a tough job, because that's one of the biggest problems we have today. Where, at least from what I'm learning, and this whole racism war right now, people are blaming, 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 right? Just for people that never heard this before, but when you're blaming, you make sure you blame the cause, not the result, because the cause is always an action word. It's a verb. It's never a noun. You can't just go, it's racism.
yeah.
You can't do that. You can't say, what's wrong with you? My mom. That
Right.
doesn't do anything, because everyone has, or a lot of people have moms. Like, what is the verb? What's happening? Something is happening. So you really have to look at that. And because fatherless children, because growing up, again, you were a puppy, when you learn these different things. And it's a good thing that you had such a good heart and all that stuff, because if you didn't take that accountability and said, you know what, I'm going to handle it and make my kids a better people, they wouldn't turn out the way they would, right? And
Right.
it's really just that thing. I always tell people, it's just my puppy theory. It's like, dude, we're just puppies. Like we train the next generation and the next generation. Like it's always going to happen. When they're 18, the whole time they're in training, man. Like you're preparing them so that they don't need you after 18.
Right. And how they're
So that's
going
the whole
to how they're going to go out into the world, and how they're going to
right.
in society as a reflection of what you've given tools have you given them. And it's
Right.
funny that when you talk about the puppy thing, well, I the and chihuahuas don't have the best reputation, and they're yappers, they're shaky, they're scared, they're all this, and every person that meets Jade goes, she's not a normal chihuahua. And I said, she's normal in the way normal
Oh,
in this
think you're
constant, and like
you're
you said,
breaking up a little bit.
oh, good.
It's like in segments. I'm like, eat
Ah,
pork. That's okay.
okay, are we good now?
Yeah, right now
Technology.
we're good. You've gotten blurrier, but that's all right. um,
Technology is not my friend.
another thing, when it comes to like puppies and stuff, one of the reasons this even came about, right? So I was talking to my wife and about how we handle kids. And one of the big, actually, it reminded me because you mentioned ADHD, right? And so when we were talking, they're like, man, everyone's just kind of so quick to put, uh, you know, basically drugging your kids. Like people just is the first thing that they do, right? And you're just like, man, like, have you even thought about what you're doing here, right? And so when we were talking about that, we have a husky. So they're a little nuts. They're crazy. They're hyper. Everyone kind of pretty much knows that that's the type of dog that just wants to be on the move. I mean, all you see is them pulling a sled, right? Like they want to work. And if you don't give them a job, they go nuts and just like, you know. So
Yeah.
anyway, when we were talking about that, it's like, when you look at a husky, it's like they're very hyper. And so she said, like, yeah, it's like giving Blizzy, which is our husky, it's like giving Blizzy drugs because she's a husky. And I'm just like, yeah, that is odd. And I'm just like, so, so what do you do when a dog is like that? You have to walk them. You have to play with them. You have to let them release their energy and all that stuff. And that's when we started talking like, yeah, but with kids, everyone's just kind of drugging them up. It's like, well, why are we doing? We don't do it to our dogs, right? It's like we don't do that to our dogs, but yet we're doing this to our freaking families, and which is crazy, so crazy. And so when we talked about that, it's like, man, that is nuts. Like, instead of telling your kid, hey, you need to play soccer, you need to get off that, PlayStation or whatever you're playing, and you need to go outside because you need to get them tired because they have so much energy built up.
Right.
And if they're not doing any sports or anything like that, well, it's the same thing as putting a husky in a cage, right? It's not doing anything. So now it's very agitated. And so what I learned from that, people always say it's nature versus nurture, right? To me, what I've learned is that it's how do you nurture nature?
Yeah.
That's actually what it is, because there's so many different types of biological whatever formations, right? And how do you nurture that type of person? Because every type of dog, you treat them a different way, right? You probably know, like, oh, Chihuahuas are known for this. Oh, lab, they're so easy. Like,
Yes.
and so
Yes.
it's how do you nurture each nature, right? That's how you gotta do it. And the same thing with your kids. When a kid is really hyper, you have to learn how. There's no one style fits all for the kids. Larry said, "Huskies are the devil." Close, very close. Yeah. So
No, you're absolutely right. And humans, every human, which is why I was saying that I love the life coaching, because I can come at it from 100 different ways with 100 different people. And I love that it's that individual approach to figuring someone out, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Why do you do
right.
this? It's, that's what it is. We lose our individuality with these medical labelings of, you have ADHD, that means we need to calm you down and remove whatever it is.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
what and I used to tell my son, that's not a crutch for you. That doesn't give you an excuse to do anything negative or dysfunctional or disruptive. I told
Yeah.
him, by having more of a tendency to be energetic, you have to find different ways to outlet.
Yeah.
And I know there was a time where, especially going in the teenage years, and he was hitting, sort of the hormonal puberty age, and it was pretty rough. A mom with a teenage son trying to make this work, it can be very difficult. And then with the ADHD part of it, we
Yeah.
had we had to figure stuff out. And I
Yeah.
literally, we went to him a punching bag. If he was having a rough day and he was lashing, I'd say, get on your skateboard and you go for a
Yeah.
ride. So we had to figure out what worked for him to get that out. Just like with your
Right.
husky. And I love your wife's analogy. That's so true. Like,
Yeah. Thank you.
it's
Yeah, and
just
it's
you
funny
and a
because
husky.
there was this one moment. I was doing like a fundraising event, and I kind of said, it's like, a lot of times when people have like really bad issues, again, the puppy theory, right? It's like it stems from their childhood, like almost all the time. They even say PTSD is not the result of what they experienced at the war; it's the way they don't know how to handle it because of the way they grew up.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's really the cause. It wasn't oh man, the war. Like a lot of people were there too, but how come they didn't turn out like you?
Right.
So
It's
let's
different.
not blame it on the result. So again, that's what people have to understand. You're looking at the result all the freaking time, and that doesn't help. So, when you really try to look for the cause, that's when you start seeing like, oh, it's when they were puppies. When they were Look at right, any dog. Do whatever you did to them as puppies, it almost stays with them until you change that. I mean, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
And then for humans, do you know how much harder it is? Like, I mean, as little babies, they soak in things that you don't realize they're just soaking in. I mean, they can learn multiple languages if you taught them. It's like, that's how insane it is. And I watched like Caesar Milan. That's another thing that kind of got me thinking about this, right? When I'm looking at the puppies and humans and stuff like that, because just trying to analyze, like you did, the behaviors and stuff. And one of the things I saw this one episode, this dog was really nuts, right? And he goes in there, and yeah, I don't know why it's crazy. Every time I bring him to the vet or something, and then right when they were at the vet, the doctor goes, "Hey, how are you?" And he was just like, "So let's not do that." Let's not do that, because it's getting them all hyper and stuff. What you want to do is just, "Hello, puppy, how's it going?" Blah blah blah. Again, nurturing nature, like very hyper dog right now, and this and that. And I just started seeing, like, even to the point where he said, like, and the thing is, again, for people that have like kids that turn out bad or whatever, I'm not saying you're such a bad parent. You just didn't know what to do. Everyone's just trying their best. Everyone's just trying their best. It's just that you didn't know what to do. Same thing with these dog owners. They didn't go to Cesar Milan because they hate the dog. Like, they're trying to just, what can we do, because they love them, the puppy so much, right? And then
Yeah.
there's this one episode that I saw where he was just like, it was your energy. Every time when you guys have that anxiety, it's causing anxiety in the dog because of what you're thinking. You're already thinking like it's going to bite someone, or the puppy's gonna do something really bad, and you anticipate it. And the dog somehow learns from your body language and your energy that you're about to do that. Now imagine what happens to human beings, like children. So when you're fighting in the other room, as if they don't hear you or they don't feel that energy when you come out, you're not getting it at all. So even though you're trying your best, you have to be really aware of what it's getting soaked in, because your energy alone, like, you can tell when someone's in a bad mood and you go, "What's wrong?" You know what I mean? A
Right.
kid will even know more, like,
Yes.
because they're just soaking in everything so well. And that's, to me, that's kind of where bullying comes from. Like,
Yeah.
you know people are
Right.
trying to put things in school and doing this, and it's just like, well, what are you doing to your puppy? Like, what's happening at home? Because like a little pit bull, they don't just bite. All of us, turn out, pretty good people, but something is happening, something's
Yeah.
causing that. And so, yeah, so that's one of the things that go into the puppy theory,
Yeah. No, for sure. And then they say that, 20% of communication is verbal and the other 80% is nonverbal. So you don't things that are said, you watch, children watch, dogs watch, and energy is a really big factor. We feel
Wow.
people's energy. We don't even have to hear
Yeah,
someone say something. We know when they walk in a room, if I connect with them, if they have a high energy or they're a positive person, you can feel that energy in the
yeah,
world with other
yeah,
people.
yeah. And I think that's something that, and just by what you did, just looking at the animals and looking what they do, it's just like, and then comparing it, like, oh my God, that's what's happening right now. And like I mentioned before, I was doing that, I had an event and stuff, and, I felt bad because they mentioned, like, oh, because it was for suicide prevention, it's for start day one. And, like, but what do you tell the parents? Isn't that kind of, you know, it's kind of rough to take in when you tell them it's your fault, but it's like, it's not that, but you need to take accountability though. Like, because what if it keeps happening? You have to know,
Right.
what did you do wrong? What could, what I mean? Like, not look for reasons why and all that stuff, but you have to really be more aware. And the thing is, no one's going to think you did it on purpose. Like, who does that on
Right.
purpose? You're just
Right.
trying your best. You just didn't know. Just like these pet owners. That's why I try to help them by relating with that. They don't they didn't want bad puppies, you know. It's just that they don't know what to do. They're not sure what's happening. Like, for example, like, people that spoil their kids. You think they hate their kids, so they spoil them? Like, right? They love them so much that they spoil them, and then they go, "But I did everything for them." Exactly. Like,
Well,
exactly. You did
exactly.
everything for them. And,
Yeah, and
you
well,
know,
and that's called enabling, and I've done that with my own children. My oldest daughter, I enabled her for a very long time, and that's a really good point. So there's projection. So we do things based on how we feel. So I look at my daughter making decisions, and this was years ago in her 20s. I look at her making bad choices, and I feel it's my job to save her from those choices. Well,
yeah,
it has nothing to do with her. It had everything to do with me feeling guilty because I didn't choose a father that should have been there for her. And so it's all this projection that we do to one another in our lives. So whenever someone says that person was really mean or they did something that offended me, I always say, it's not about you. It's all about them. There's something
yeah,
going on, them uncomfortable. And when you were saying that earlier, about the blaming our parents, it really
yeah,
is. The difference is between the self-awareness that we have and the, say, like, PTSD. Some people have it and some people don't, and they could be in the same exact situation over in the war. But
yeah.
the difference is, what coping skills were they taught, what coping skills have they
You're
learned
right,
along the way.
right,
The people
right,
with the most coping skills are going to be able to overcome much better and look
right.
toward the positive, as opposed to those that don't have a lot of coping skills and they're just not aware. And
Yeah. And that's kind of where, I've discussed this so many times on the show, where I tell people that's where with everyone getting trophies, I get it. It makes them feel so much better. But is it better for them
nope.
in the long run? Because you're not teaching them adversity. You're not teaching them how to cope with loss and how to uh, go through it. Like, they have to be able to learn that at that age. That's why it's the best time to learn that with games and sports and all these things. But if you don't let them feel that, their first breakup is going to be hell. And I believe that that's one of the biggest reasons why the suicide rate in the younger is so high. They don't know. They just got out there and now they're experiencing loss. They lost their girlfriend. They can't get the job. They're failing at school. Wait, my parents not going to come and force the A? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I don't know what to do with this. And so they don't know how to cope with that. And that's what, when they're kids, that's what you're trying to teach them, how to do the coping mechanism, right? To how to really
That's
enhance
right.
that. And so that's why I'm not really in favor of that. And people are always doing things like that. And again, it's just like, you got to think of the long term. It's like, it's not just, I'm starting to change the idea of, like, everyone always says, live in a present, live in a present, live in a present. And I'm just like, to a certain extent. So one of the things that I learned, when people have issues or problems, it's not it's not what they can see in their past. It's what really they can't see in their future.
Yes.
Your present self, I'm all about, soaking it in, present moment. But the way you live presently is how you want your future self, or what your future self would like you to do.
Yes.
So the future self doesn't mean work, 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 so we can have that freaking yacht, because he's going to be pissed if he had zero fun, zero experience, and especially if you fail,
Yeah.
right? At
Yeah.
whatever you're trying to do, because then you just miss that, because time is the most scarce thing in the world. There's no one can buy it. It's impossible. So that is like, that's a big deal. So you really have to really think about that. Like, it's really your future self, and how do you act today? It's not that I'm not saying don't relax, don't hang out in the sun, but your future self is telling you, like, you know what, take the time, because the future self is a happy one. You don't just go like, oh, I just want to be a rich one. I'll be miserable, but I just want to be rich. Like, no, you want the entire package, right? So the
Right.
future self will kind of guide you in that. And that's what I tell kind of entrepreneurs, like that's your boss. Your future self is your boss. People
Yeah.
think you have no boss. It's like, I don't know. Would your future self like what you're doing today? You know what I mean?
It's so
Yeah.
true. It's so true.
Yeah.
And a
So it's
lot of this is just fear based. So, your depression is the carrying of the past. So you have the guilt, you have the shame. So that's
Mhm.
that's the depression side of it. So that's from the
Yeah.
past. The anxiety is the unknown and the fear of the future. So you get sort of
Yeah.
stuck in this little vortex of I'm stuck in today and I'm holding on to the past and I'm scared of the future. So I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not moving. I'm standing still. And it's letting go of those fears, facing those fears. And
Hmm.
like you said with the children growing up, when I enabled my daughter every time and I basically saved her from falling all the time, I was doing a disservice because she didn't know how to cope after mom saving her all the time, whether it be financially or emotionally. And
Yeah.
I had to step back. I stepped back and I allowed her to live her life. And I actually physically had to remove myself from
Yeah.
her life. And she is amazing and has come so far. And she said to me, "It's the best thing you could have ever done for me, mom."
Yeah. And
So
see, it's
how do you know joy if you haven't had pain? How do you know
exactly,
success if you haven't had failure?
exactly.
Happy
And what
versus sad.
and
So
more, I'm telling people that it's actually a requirement for a fulfilling life, for a meaningful life, without the struggle. And that's why I refer to people like, what do you mean? You're like, have you ever seen a good movie without struggle or conflict? Like, name one. That's
right,
that's a documentary, man. So like, it's required. Like, imagine Titanic. Jack Dawson doesn't get her. She stayed with the rich one, and they got richer. Like, and she actually loved them. Like,
right.
what's the story there? What, I don't get the story. And the thing
Yeah,
is, that's what happens, right? It's like it's not about that. It's like same thing with sports and video games. That's how I relate with kids. I'm just like, does the level of difficulty decrease as you play more? Like, no. As you get better, you want more challenges. We want more struggle. And actually, you learn after a breakup. Do you love better or worse? Right? All of a sudden, you're like, ooh, and so you see it more. And so without that, it becomes more meaningful. Like, and it's a requirement. It's actually required. The thing is, it's what's your perspective on them. That's
yeah,
it. And
yeah.
yeah, so let's go into the perspective mode here, because I know you
Oh,
were kind of mentioning that with your kids and stuff. So a
yeah,
lot of the things I tell people from what I've learned throughout all my years experience and just researching and all that stuff, it seems to stem all the freaking time on the perspective. Obviously before that there's something else. I think if you need a purpose, but no matter what, all these problems always seem to stem from a bad perspective. And then when they get fixed, it stems from their perspective again. If you look at every guru, even yourself, like what happened to you, you're in a bad situation, this, that, and all the thing, no one gave you a magic pill. You didn't win the lottery. Like, what happened? What happened? All of a sudden, the only thing was your perspective shifted somehow and said, nope, because you saw a different version of the future you and said, no, I want to be this though. So almost everything will follow that, right? And
yeah,
so it always stems from there. I mean, I mentioned this so many times. I feel bad for the people that actually watch this all the time, but um, there was this one lady that I saw on TV where she was suicidal for 16 years, and I'm like, geez, like, first of all, like, how do you even like suicidal, or they were in depression for 16 years, right? And that's all they'd say. They blame just depression, and it's just like, how can you do that? Like, no one ever walks around saying like, oh my god, I've been dealing with happiness since 2012. That sucks for you. You know what I mean? Like, no one ever does that. And those are just results, and people can't seem to understand that these are just the results, but the cause is your perspective on things, and that's what needs to shift. Look what happens to your kids. You end up shifting their perspective in a different way. I was talking to someone about, like, meditation or yoga and stuff like that.
mhm,
I get it. Yoga's great and it's so good for you, but it just remedies the result. If you still haven't forgiven your mom, dad, or you haven't let go of that pain, it's like, well, that means you're going to need to meditate like every 15 minutes. Like, but if you had just let go of that, I was telling someone, I'm just like, you shouldn't have to wake up every morning looking in the mirror and saying like, you are worthy, you are beautiful, and it's just like, I just say, hey babe, want some coffee? Like, you should wake up happy. And because you have to handle the perspective. If your perspective is off, you're going to have to use all these tools that you've learned to be happy. And but you haven't looked at the cause. It's like trying to get the best mop ever, but it's like, why don't you just fix the leak? Why don't you just fix the leak? Like, you know?
Oh, I have so much to say. I have so much to
Yeah, let
say.
it out.
Okay, I love that you just wake up and say, "I'm just going to be happy," and that's awesome. That's awesome. Thank God, it's job security for me that not everybody can do that, and that others need help. But I want to break it down.
Yeah.
If you take perspective and you unzip it and untie it and really look inside, perspective is your belief
Mhm.
system,
Yeah.
and something that I've gone with every client, and it is always the turning point in every single client, is
Yep.
we work on this false belief system. So I do this exercise, and we work through these questions that bring out some beliefs that they didn't even know they had. So
Yeah.
Ricardo, it's not like they're consciously getting up every day and going, today I'm going to be depressed, today I'm going to be miserable. They literally have this ingrained belief programmed that's been the norm, and we seek the suffering we know. So it's our comfort zone,
Yeah.
whether it's healthy or not, it's still our comfort zone. And that's the difference, is we break through. What do you believe about yourself that isn't good for you, that isn't healthy, or that isn't true? So if I tell myself every day I'm a loser, and then we discover you're saying you're a loser, what if I insert something that counters you believing you're a loser? Well, guess what? Then your perspective changes. Then your
Exactly.
then your behavior changes. Then your
Right.
life changes, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And again, like for people, it's like again, I have to keep emphasizing depression is a result. I don't wake up happy every morning. It's the result. When I'm depressed in the morning, it's because of a cause. Something caused it.
Right.
Don't just go, oh, my depression's acting up. What do you mean your depression is acting up? Like, what does that mean? Did you mean because your mom did something? Did you mean your girlfriend, your wife? There was a cause. You can't just go, oh, my depression's acting up today. Man, my anger is really weird today. Like, the only people only use depression and anxiety as if those are the only two emotions in the freaking world.
Right.
No
Right.
one says that about happiness. Like, whoa, my happiness this morning is awesome. Like, wow, just out of nowhere. So you're
Yeah.
telling me people that are happy will never get depressed if someone passes away? Is that what you're saying? Like, it's always the result. So when I was talking about before, how we're waking up, I'm not saying you wake up happy. What I'm saying is like until you remedy the cause, you're always gonna be waking up depressed. But don't say, oh, it's depression. Well, that doesn't fix anything whatsoever at all.
I
It's like
Yeah.
saying, oh, I'm not a millionaire. Why? Because I'm poor.
No, that's true. That's
Like, wait, what?
really, really true.
like, wait,
Well,
what?
again,
So
there's that blaming thing in that title,
yeah, yeah,
that they use that they use for mental health, and I think that is such
oh,
a
right,
difficult thing, and I'm sure mental health professionals would, some would disagree. The old school
yeah,
thinking is you got to give them a diagnosis. Well, sometimes it's more harmful than helpful, and when I say to someone, oh, you have depression, then they have that mentality to wake up every day and go, oh, well, I have depression, so it's no wonder I feel crappy today, rather than I say,
yeah. I
you know,
I'm
rather
agree.
than if I say to you, you have a huge, huge happiness disorder,
Yeah,
like you said. So,
right,
so now they start behaving happy. I mean, it's kind of that same, as silly as that sounds, it's the
right,
same idea.
right.
I'm not going to give you an excuse by saying you're depressed and then you follow suit because you planted that belief that because I have depression, it's okay
Right.
to be sad. So
Right.
that's where the whole, when we believe something, that belief system has
Yeah.
everything to do with our perspective and our behavior.
Definitely.
So that can change.
Yeah.
It's
And
choice.
right. And it's definitely something that's like the core and stuff. And it's, that's what you have to change, that perspective. And these doctors, like you said, like, yeah, a lot of them probably will disagree and stuff. The same way doctors disagree about some physical illnesses, right? Like with diabetes and stuff like that. And I've used this plenty of times, and I don't know why with mental health, it's being done. Um, the doctors don't say like, oh, you need to, eat right and this and that. They just go and tell you the symptoms and they tell you this, but they don't never really tell you how the prevention part or whatever else. They're only at the result part, and that's what doctors are there for. You're trying to remedy the result now, but hopefully they're looking for the cause. But a lot of them are no longer doing that. They're just saying, oh, you have depression. That's great, but let's cure it. Like they just go, you have depression, this is what you take. Oh wait, my bad, that's anxiety. Like, you know
I
and
agree.
and,
I
and the
agree. I
thing is,
agree.
what's even worse is the nocebo effect. So everyone knows the placebo effect, how you can cure yourself, make yourself better by simply your mindset. But people don't look at the nocebo effect, how it ruins your life because of your mindset. And when we talk about mental health, right? When the doctors say, and they take it from the doctors, especially when they're in that bad mindset and they're looking for excuses, you gave them the best excuse in the world from a doctor.
Yeah.
You have depression, you have anxiety, you have PTSD. Like, oh, they're like, yes, like I have the excuse now. Awesome. So they're not that they mean to, it's just that they're in that state of mind. And so they end up latching onto that. But the nocebo effect. And when I talk to people about, what we're saying, right? That we have to remedy it a different way. It has to be this and that. And that's not how it works or whatever else. I always, the thing that goes into my head is like, you're under the assumption that everyone has like this deeper issue, that it's not just your perspective. You're under assumption everyone, it's not because of the perspective, it's because of a deeper meaning. So you're telling me all these people, all these alcoholics, there's something deeper than that, right? Kind of like they say, like, well, that's because their mom is an alcoholic. It's like, yeah, that's not the reason, but let's keep going. But anyway, they talk about all that stuff, and they don't really realize like what's really causing it. Like, what is actually the cause of this thing? And you just keep trying to remedy the result with the depression and anxiety. And it's like, dude, we really have to look at what you're telling these people. Is it worse for me to tell someone that, hey, you could be happy, right? That it just starts with a decision and you're really accountable for it? Or there's nothing you can do about that. Here's drugs. Like, which one is better? Because you're under the assumption that it's the ones that need the drugs, that all of them are that way. All of them. And to me, I'm like, no. Even if they are that way, does it hurt them to go, hey, you have a chance, Like, if a doctor would just say that, like, oh, it's because you keep doing this and this, dude, this will be gone in 3 weeks. I got you.
Yeah.
It's different. And actually, one of the thing that stuck out when we were talking, how you got into life coaching and stuff, which is really cool, actually, because you're a psych major and everything, right? You said.
No, I didn't get a
Oh,
degree
okay,
in.
but got
Yeah.
you. But what the thing that I like is that you said that life coaching has like an unconventional method of doing things,
Yeah.
and like what are the major things that you saw? Was like, that you wouldn't be able to do, or like what kind of unconventional methods were you kind of referring to, I guess?
Sure, sure. So therapy and counseling are going to really focus on your past reasons
Yeah.
why. And I feel not down the therapy at all, because I do think there are some people who need deeper healing,
Yeah, definitely.
therapy and stuff like that. I completely believe in that. As far as life coaching goes, some of the unconventional methods I've done, say for my relationship coaching, I have couples that have been very distant and they have lost a connection. I create a date and I make them go out on a date. And they have to be, there's a surprise with her. I
Yeah, yeah,
there are couples I've even made schedule sex. So
yeah,
those unconditional,
yeah.
unconventional methods. I
Yeah,
have
that's true.
I have individuals where I have a really neat project that they do where they create a recipe. The recipe is them. So what are the ingredients you? And how do you make it? How does it? Uh, what can go wrong with it? So you can say a cup of give, or uh, say a half a cup, so that type of thing. Describe who
Yeah,
you are and see yourself in a light that
yeah,
others see you. And I think a
yeah,
lot of the life coaching that is so effective is the ability to have someone look outside of themselves, and the ability
yeah.
to
That's true.
volunteering cause like suicide
Hmm.
prevention. I like people that are having issues to get outside of themselves, go to an animal rescue and
Yeah,
volunteer there, because then you look at your problems as not so large, but that there are
yeah,
others out there who have larger
yeah. I
things.
mean, it's funny, and we're all doing the same thing. Whether you're like a big time therapist, life coach, reading a book, all we're doing is shifting people's perspectives on things. That's it. We don't do anything for them. Everything has to be done themselves. Like there is nothing we do at all except try to guide them and all that stuff. I mean, obviously you can manipulate them in different ways, but still, it's really them that does all the work. And I forgot to mention even earlier when there was that one girl that was suicidal for like 16 years. I mean, she was basically one of those people that you would consider like, oh my gosh, she needs to go to a therapist. Like she's done. She was suicidal for 16 years and she took the drugs and all that stuff, didn't work. She did this therapy, this yoga, this, that, whatever. She did all of it. All of it. Everyone that you can think of, like, and she said, I tried it. I tried it. It took all the way for her to talk to the Dalai Lama. And she didn't get a magic pill,
No,
right? She didn't get a special equipment, a special exercise, nothing. The only thing that changed was her perspective that she was one with the freaking universe. And
yes.
that was all she needed to know. She's no longer suicidal. And that, to people that are watching, and that's what I mean about changing your perspective. That's all you fucking need, man. When you can really change that from the beginning, because that's the cause. Everything follows that. Your decisions, this, like you mentioned before, I'm a loser. I'm not going to amount to anything. That's really, well, all your decisions will follow that. I'm not going to go for this job. Losers get this job. I'm not going to get that relationship. Losers get this relationship. So everything follows this way until you go like, you know what? No. Like
You know,
I'm gonna shift.
what I tell clients when they come to me? I
Mhm.
I ask them, and pardon my French, but I go, "Are you tired of your shit? Are you tired of your shit?" Because if you're not tired of your shit, you're not going to change.
Yeah,
You're not going to take the tools I give you. I say I can give you the biggest toolbox in the world, but you've got to build the house.
yeah,
So if,
and
if they're not using it ready, and there is a
yeah,
readiness to it, and it's the most simplest, most
that's
difficult thing,
funny.
that's the biggest oxymoron in the world. The simplest,
Yeah.
most difficult decision to make is, am I ready to do something different?
Well,
16 years. For 16
yeah,
years, that girl was not ready. She said, I like where I'm at. I'm comfortable where I'm at. This is all I know. I'm not
yeah.
ready.
She
And
didn't. Yeah,
she
she's.
had to try 20
Yeah,
different methods
I
until she
totally agree. She was
until she
depending
figured
on
it out.
she was depending on external factors that's going to go, well, that didn't work. Yoga, that didn't work. Because you still think the same way though. Like you didn't even want to change. Like you didn't even want to. You're just going like, no, that didn't work, and that didn't work, and that didn't work, and that's all you're really doing. I had this one guy complaining before, and I told him like it. Basically, what you were doing when you said, "Are you tired of your shit?" You were just going like, "Have you made a decision to get better? Like,
Yeah.
have you made a decision?"
Yeah.
And well, people will say like, um, when I've asked people like, I have my clothing line called Fuck It, right? It's like, oh, it's fuck it. Like, when do you say it? People have asked, it's like, oh, when you've had enough. And it's like, no. So one thing that I've learned, is that enough is not an amount. It's just a decision. When people
Yeah.
are you tired of your shit? It's really like you've been tired, but when are you gonna make the decision? Like when are you gonna make the decision? You've been tired for 10 years. Like you've been
Right.
tired of the shit for 10 years, you know?
It, it's sort of like, in AA, they talk about, have you hit your rock bottom? I think,
I don't like that at
I know,
all.
I know, but let me just relate it to the level of
Yeah, yeah,
when you hit a rock bottom per se as an addict, right? That's
yeah,
just that's just a way of saying that this is the point I've reached where I just don't want to go further with
yeah,
what I'm doing. And so you
right.
take that into anything in your life. I remember, if I can share this story, my daughter was in a domestic violence relationship marriage,
Yeah,
and her husband broke her arm, and she has 13 screws and a plate in her arm. And I remember her calling me,
yeah,
and she told me about her arm, and I didn't know that he had broken her arm. And she finally confessed that he had done it, and she stayed. And I was so helpless, and I didn't want to enable her again. So I said, "You're going to have to decide and figure out your, and when you're ready, then we'll help you and we'll work with
yeah,
you. You have to make that choice." And I remember
yeah,
her calling and saying, "He came home drinking again, and that's bad enough." And I said to her, "What do you mean? The drinking? That's your point? That's your line in the sand? Is because he came drinking, not that broke arm and you have a plate and 13 screws?" And I hung up with her, and horrible, Ricardo, and I had to call her back because my marriage that was also abusive with an alcoholic, I had been choked and held down on the ground, and literally being strangled. But
wow,
that wasn't my quote quote rock bottom. That wasn't my line in
yeah,
the sand, and I going. So I felt
yeah,
really bad for saying to her, "Why wasn't that enough?" And I called her
right.
back and I said, "I had no right to question what is enough for you. When you're ready, you will be
Hmm.
ready. And when you discover your
Right.
worth and you
Yeah,
then you're going to make yourself.
yeah.
No one can make
And,
that for you."
right. And no matter what, and that's, I've talked to someone before, and people that watch the show I've said it so many times. I met this one kid, like I mentioned before, that I was saying that it all starts with a decision, right? Anything, any kind of progress, it all starts with a decision. And this kid would just look at me like, yeah, but it's not that easy. And I'm just like, I never said it was easy. It starts with a decision. And he's like, yeah, but I'm in rehab now and this and that. And I'm just like, yeah, that doesn't matter. It still starts with a decision, man. He's like, yeah, but I'm like, oh, dude, stop saying but. Like, it all starts with a decision. Why can't you do that? And I just backed up, and he stood there for a second, and he's just like going through his database of excuses. Like, I'm talking minutes, and I'm going, what are you doing? I didn't tell you to run a marathon. I didn't tell you to read a book. Like, dude, I'm just telling you, like, starts with a decision. I'm not saying you're cured tomorrow, but it has to start there. That's why we call it start day one, right?
Yeah.
Um, because there's a day 2, day 3, day 4. I'm not saying tomorrow. I'm saying you better start though. Yeah, unless you
Right.
start, nothing was going to happen. And so he was just like sitting there, and then he finally goes, "You're right. You're right." I'm like, "I know. You're welcome. You're in rehab, and you haven't even decided to get better." Kind of like what you were saying about that girl. It's just like you haven't decided to get better. You're wasting so much time. You're going to rehab for your parents. Great. Well, guess what you're going to do after you get out?
You're gonna
Because
do it.
again, all that
You're
was
gonna
doing
do
was remedying the result, not
it.
the cause. What is the cause? You still haven't looked into that. You're still just going like, oh, it's the beer. No, it's not. It's stop it. It's not the beer. And I hate when people blame it. on the beer, when they're saying alcoholism and stuff. And I'm just like, dude, you're in trouble. Because if you still to this day think, oh, if I have another drink, that ain't it. I'm telling you right now, you're looking at it as um, the impetus for your bad behaviors. Like
Right.
once you have it, all of a sudden you're gonna go back. Well, you put that in your mind. That's your perspective. That once you take a sip, oh, that's it. I'm a fuck up again. It's like, yeah, the
Right.
beer doesn't do that because I have beer. I have beer. I don't know. So that's what gets you in trouble. You have to learn that, dude, it's just your mindset. They think like, oh, addiction, oh, heroin, oh, it's the heroin. No, it ain't. It's your mindset. You won't do heroin if you have a good mindset. Not because the heroin, people in hospitals get heroin, even a better fucking dose of it.
Uh-huh. Right.
So that's not it. And when they talk about addiction, it's like, no, then explain to me gambling. Like, what do you put in your body for gambling? How about sex addiction? So what did you put in? Tell me, like, what did you eat? Is it a diet thing? So it's like this blaming game, like, right? We keep going back to this, like, it's again, that's how I learned. It's like that kid. It was all they didn't actually the second I learned about accountability was I told someone else the story about that kid, and she was just like, yeah, it's different for everybody. And I was like, no, it's not. Like, it always starts with a decision. She's like,
Yeah.
no, whatever. And she like left. I mean, man, angry. And I'm going, why would she be so angry? All I said was it starts with a decision. Like, you have to do that or else nothing's going to happen. And that's when I really analyzed it and I went, oh, I see why she's so pissed off. The second you agree with me is the second you can't use those excuses anymore.
That's right.
Ah, because if she said, you're right, now I'm accountable. Like, I can't say my dad, I can't say my past, nothing from the past ever again. Nope, because I
Right.
need that as an excuse. Yeah, but my parents were bad to me. So we're back to that. All
Well,
right.
you're aware that you have a choice and you firmly know that you choices to make.
Yeah.
That's when you go either back to the blame game and feeling
Yeah.
sorry for yourself, or you
Yeah.
move forward. And by you telling her she had a choice, she didn't want to hear that because it was much easier to stay in the place where she was.
Yeah.
She,
Yeah.
she did
Yeah.
not want to make the choice.
All
And
right. Right.
I recall
And they
many,
don't.
many times where I didn't know. I didn't know the
Yeah.
choice because
Yeah. And
I
and
remember I was telling you I believe life happened to me instead of for me.
mhm,
And at this point, I understand that everything happens to us is,
yeah.
and I got this kind of inspired thing the other day when I was outside at night. There's a series of lessons. We're either learning them or we're teaching them. And it's that simple. They're divided into two things: either what's happening in my life, the incidences, the experiences, or bad, are going to teach me. And then
Yeah.
once I've gained that lesson and I get to make a choice, then I can help someone else and I can teach
Yeah.
them. So it's that
And what's
pretty
funny
simple.
is, and so again, like, I have this timeline in my head now because I've analyzed, where does it come in? When does this come in? And a choice is a decision, basically, right?
Yep.
It's a
Yep.
decision. Now, the thing is, all decisions follow your perspective, right? So
Right.
it's until you change this, you will never ever make this decision. That's why I tell people, like, I'm telling you, it has to start here. If you can't change someone's perspective, they will never make that decision to do it this way, ever, ever.
100.
Whether it's
Yep.
whether it's in sales or whatever, like, that's just the way it is. And so that's kind of my thing is, it all starts with a sense of purpose. You have to really look. This is my pursuit of happiness. This is how you do it. You look for your purpose, right? Because without a purpose, there's no why, there's no reason, there's no nothing.
Yep.
Once you figure that out, you have to look at your perspectives. Is it in line? Because you can say my purpose is to help people, this, that, and then you go, yeah, but my perspective is I don't really have time. I have 3 kids. I'm a single mother. Well, that perspective is definitely not in line, so you're going to help no one. So
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're like, you know what if I do this? What if I do that? Yeah, I think I can do it. All of a sudden the perspective changes. Sometimes the way to help perspective is inspiration. So people that are watching, this is the difference between inspiration and motivation. Inspiration helps you change your perspective. Once you change that perspective, it allows you to make that decision. Once you make the decision, because right now your perspective, right? Just like a startup business, everything you fucking know are assumptions. Oh, I'm gonna be a life coach. I hope. I don't know. I have no clue. I'm a loser. I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. It's just an assumption. Startups are the same exact way. When I do my shit, it's like the only way you learn is by getting feedback or data. That is it. Everything you fucking know, yeah, but she's never going to go for me. How do you know?
Right.
Until she tells you, nope, I am not dating you, then yeah, you're right. I agree with you. But
It's
until you get that feedback,
yeah.
but the thing is, what's people don't need to know, inspiration, motivation is not the same thing. Motivation comes after the decision, the
Okay.
choice. And
Okay.
people have to understand the choice is, it's not about making the right choice. No one really knows the right choice. You could be a doctor and be miserable. Like you could be rich and be miserable. You know what I mean? Like, but it's how you deal with the consequences. That even that is a choice. How you deal with it is a choice. How you it's going to let you affect you and all that stuff. That in itself is a choice. So, but and
I'm
that's
gonna
what's cool with
I'm
puppies,
gonna
right?
yeah, well, and I want to piggyback off of that because, maybe we're a really good blend here. So, the logic part of that, I love what you're saying. And isn't that what science is you got to get proof. So you don't know anything.
Yeah.
Everything's a theory until it's
Yeah.
proven.
Yeah.
Same thing that you just said about everything being an assumption. And
Right.
then I'm going to piggyback off of that and go to my, kind of life coaching mentality of
Yeah.
emotion. Follow your emotions. We've always been told to don't follow your heart, listen to your head, use your head. You're too emotional, you're too sensitive. And I want to undo all of those things that we're told or programmed right through life.
Yeah.
And I tell everyone, my friends, my family, my clients, I always say, go where it feels good. And when you're talking about meditation, the beauty of meditation is if I'm in a spot that's not feeling really good, I
Yeah.
can go to meditation and I can go to a neutral place. I
Yeah.
may not be able to jump to happy, but I can certainly go from sadness or anger to neutral for a moment, and then I
Right.
can find my way to happy.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
I
Definitely.
I like the emotional side of being driven on that journey. And when you say inspiration, your inspiration is that joy, the emotional joy of that, which then brings you, I always say, be the CIO of your life. So see clarity, find out what you want, find your purpose.
Yeah.
Inspiration, just like you said, you're inspired to do something that will move you. Hey, there's the puppies with their 2 cents. They were really quiet for a long time.
Yeah. Right.
So inspiration is the where is it going to move me? Where is it going to guide me? And then the O for me is opportunity. The opportunities will come when you receive the inspiration, like you said, and then you get the motivation to move toward it. And you've
Hmm.
made the decision, like you said, making the decision first is
Right.
is the whole
Right.
it's the starting point on your treasure map, right?
Yeah. That's
It's like
yeah.
it's
And
the
that's
you are here part
yeah.
before you go to the big X where the treasure is. So
Right.
that's exactly it. And I just agree with you 100%.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it's like people always assume that people have to. It's all about accountability, man. It always does. Like it's people don't understand that it's intentional to get better. It doesn't just get better. Like
Right.
it's intentional. You actually have to put effort into it. You know what I mean? Like, stop depending too much on, it's like, stop depending so much on external stuff and then waiting for the results kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
with you change your oil in your car all the time. You don't keep going until like, whoa, what's what's going on? Now you have to go to the mechanic. Same thing with like your health, your physical health. That's why I always kind of tell people, like with the physical health, it's like you you don't wait to get diabetes to start eating right. Like,
Right,
you
right.
know what I
Yes,
mean? Like,
yes.
I think you eat your vegetables and exercise to prevent diabetes, right? But with mindset, we don't do that because we
Yeah.
can't see it. We can't uh, until you get the diagnosis, and then you go, "Oh man, I have depression."
Yeah.
Like, well, yeah. Well, what have you been doing? You've been thinking this way. You've thought you're a loser. You've negative as hell. Like, well, where do you think you're gonna go? Like, I'm not.
Yes.
You
And
know?
the less you try, the easier it is when you have those labels put on you because you can blame it. You can continuously be in this cycle of, well, I do this because of this. I do this. And so there's no accountability,
Yeah.
because of that. Because you're able to, it's a scapegoat. Your
Yeah.
diagnosis can be a scapegoat.
Yeah.
Our labels that we place on
Right.
ourselves, they can be
Right.
scapegoats. Well, my mother was schizophrenic, so I
Right.
probably have some tendencies, or my family, they're just a family of heavy people. I mean, we're
Yeah.
big bones.
Eh,
So,
yeah. And the hard part, right, with mental health is because you can't really see it. You can't
yeah,
tell, especially when you're in a bad mindset. Your awareness almost like dissipates. Like you don't even realize where you're at until you're really bad, right?
yeah,
And that's actually where I tell people, like, again, going back to like what the society, doctors, organizations are doing, being reactive.
mhm,
Um, what sucks is the way they diagnose people and wait for it and being reactive to it. And any kind of prevention requires a proactive approach. I mean, any. So I always talk about obesity. I mean, diabetes and obesity, same thing. Those are the results, right?
right.
And when we talk about doctors and stuff like that, they always say like, oh, you have to look for the symptoms of depression, symptoms of anxiety, symptoms of suicidal tendencies. And I'm just like, why? Why do you
Yeah.
have to wait for that? Like, why do I have to wait for symptoms? Oh, I don't see symptoms. I'm not hugging you today. You know what I mean? Like,
I know.
it seems like he left his room on time. You know what? We're not going to the park today. We're good. Like, it doesn't make sense. So we actually came up with, so as you can see, teal is the color here.
Yes.
Um, this basically is our theme color for Start Day One, and actually our Fuka clothing also. And we made an acronym for it, almost like the vegetables of what you need for mental health, kind of like how you have exercise and vegetables for preventing diabetes. And basically, it stands for giving your time, effort, attention, and love. And what's funny is talking to you, that's what puppies are masters at, right? Like
Yes.
they're always ready to give you teal. Like they're always ready. And the thing is, and that's what's awesome about them, it's like they're always giving it. They're not waiting. They're like, well, he looks like he's good. Nah, I'm not gonna wag my tail. And you know what I mean? They're always like, hey, are you ready? You ready to
Yeah.
love me up? Little
Right.
fur here.
They never overthink anything. That's for
Right.
sure.
Right. Yeah, and then that's the thing, right? It's like it's a constant thing, and I don't know why people are waiting and waiting and waiting. Even the clients, that you're going to or whatever. It's just like you have to start now. Like it's the best time to exercise physically to prevent obesity. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, not when you're 200 pounds over 500. You don't wait, right? You do it right
Right.
now, even when you're in the best fucking shape ever. You do
Yeah.
it right now. So same thing with mental health. It's fucking health. Like you have to handle it right now. It's not something like, well, no, I'm not really that anxious yet. So I'm good, Maureen.
Oh my God.
I'll
I
talk to you
love
next week.
that. I
I'm good
know.
today. I'm good
Check
today.
check on me in a few hours.
Right, right.
I
Not just
agree with
yet.
you. Oh my God.
Right, right. It's insane. Like this mindset that you react to things is insane. It's like, oh no, I'm not holding a rope. Oh, you're fine. Like when people say like, call us when you're suicidal. Like what? call when you when like.
Yes.
And what
Oh,
happens is you have these alcoholics, and it's like, oh, you're just an alcoholic. I said suicide, so yeah, you're not there yet.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Drug abuse, that's cute, but that's that department over there. Like, what? They're all the same cause, just different levels,
Yes.
right? Because
Yes.
I would say it starts with a bad perspective that evolves. It starts off with like, oh, I hate Mondays. My relationship sucks. Oh my God, my life also sucks. And now you're an alcoholic. Now you're doing drugs. Well, now you're suicidal.
Mhm.
Suicidal is at the end because if you accomplish that shit, nothing goes after.
Yep.
And that's what I tell people. It's like it's the same cause, but everyone's remedying these results. You know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
all that's all you're doing. What is causing it? You have to go back to it. And that's what I always kind of emphasize. And it's like, but it's intentional. It's a decision. But until we change people, that's why we do this. And we're hoping everything Maureen has mentioned, everything we've talked about is changing people's perspectives, because until that happens, guaranteed you will not make that decision. You won't do it. You have to change your perspective, you know?
And you know what I really would love to see? One of the things that I would love to just go out there and share with the world, the message is there
Yeah.
is no shame when it comes to mental health. I'm tired of everyone feeling this shame that if I seek help, there's
Thank you
something
for using shame because
oh,
people blame and they say stigma. And I'm like, I've never been pissed off at anyone depressed, ever. Like,
right.
ever. I don't know
Yeah,
what stigma you're talking about, but if you mean embarrassed and ashamed,
shame.
yes, I agree with you. I agree with you.
When
Again,
you
it's
talk,
another blame tactic. It's,
it
oh,
is.
it's a stigma. That's why I didn't call for help. Like,
Yes, yes.
right.
And like you said about the pharmaceutical part of it is if if they throw me on medication, then I'm going to be on it for the rest of my life, and that says that they're thinking I'm never going to get better,
Yeah.
and that already sets right there a mentality,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
belief that
That
you can't do it, that you can't
even worse.
function,
Yeah.
right?
I'm, I can only be better when I take this.
Yeah,
Oh my God. When you have that mindset and that's your perspective on your, oh my God, you're done. You're
yeah,
done. You know?
yeah.
And what's funny is people kind of, have this what do you call it? Butt heads with me on that. And they're like, yeah, but sometimes it's your chemical imbalance. Let's talk about that chemical imbalance.
Hmm.
Is that the cause or the result? Chemical imbalances, most of the time, are the fucking result.
Yeah.
When you think, I'm telling you, I'll force you to think of the worst thoughts in your head. Think of everything you could really get nervous about. Your cortisol will just start pumping because your brain goes, there's a lion. There's a freaking lion somewhere. I feel it. I feel the freaking lion. Your cortisol just pumping like crazy. You know that chemical imbalance you keep talking about? Yeah, you're causing that. Chemical imbalance doesn't just go blip. Oh, and all of a sudden, oh, looks like I'm gonna be depressed. And that's
Mhm.
why they see this depression as if it's like this thing. And that when you catch it, it's like, ah, oh, I'm gonna be depressed for like, I don't know, Doc said a month. Like, it's like it doesn't work that way. You keep thinking bad thoughts because of your bad perspective. Well, that's going to lead you into the depressed state. And that's why you're in depression. Depression is not the cause, it's the result, you
Right,
know? And
right.
that's why like, I don't know how many times I emphasize this shit because I have to. And it's that shift. It's that shift. They need to, like, like, that's why life coaches, it took me a while to kind of, I don't know, kind of understand, like, but I get it because some people have explained it, like Michael Jordan needs a coach, things like that. So I'm
Yep.
just like, okay. And like what you said, one of the things is like being outside. Like, yeah, your friends could be coaches, but when it's your job and you have more awareness and knowledge and stuff, it's good. Like I've kind of come across some that aren't really, you can tell they're still, because, oh, I came from this to this. Like, yeah, I can see that. Like, I still see some of the issues coming out. Like, I've talked to people like that, so it's kind of made me like, oh, like I've had psychologists that, like I actually graduated one of them like in college and stuff. And I'm just like, and they had issues like, so I'm just like, oh man, that's rough. Like
Yeah,
it's good that you have that experience, but man, not good if you can't fix yourself, like,
right.
there's different people with parents that were psychologists, psychiatrists, and their kids ended up being in very bad mental health. Like, how's that possible? So
Mhm.
it's the teal. Like, it's funny what that can do. And that's why I kind of like that you looked at the puppies and dogs for that inspiration, because it really is a big thing that you can learn, like huge. If humans could be more like that to each other, like, oh my God,
I
let
think
go.
there's a spiritual aspect to mental health and being healthy. And I think we forget to include that spirituality. So you've got to have that whole part, the physical, the
Yeah,
mental, and the spiritual. And sometimes the spirituality is the missing part that
yeah,
you lose that connection. And so with the dogs, they kind of remind us to stay connected spiritually, and that life is really, we're all going to die. We all came here alone. We're all going to leave
yeah,
here alone. And what are you going to do with your dash? What legacy are you leaving? A legacy of sickness, illness,
right,
depression, or are you going to leave something amazing that says, I overcame, I made a decision, I showed my children and grandchildren and great grandchildren, you can have what you want in life, you can be fulfilled, and you can have as much happiness as you choose. So,
right. Well, that's a beautiful way to end this, people. That's what I'm thinking. Like, that was just some,
my
I mean, look, right? It's like, wait, what? I can't hear you now. No, thank you so much for taking the time. I mean, we went way over, right? We said 1 hour, guys, but
we knew we
thank you
would.
so
We
much.
knew we would.
Yeah, right. We kind of expected it. But yeah, thank you so much for, taking the time to talk with our audience and really putting, your insights and coaching and stuff. So everyone, if you want to get in touch with her, just go to lifecoachmaureen.com, and all her social media and everything is on there. As you can see, she's really awesome. She's just a bubbly person. So I think just having a session with her might do you some good anyway, right? I love when I see smiley people. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the best. Like, I
Keep
never
it.
understood when people told me that, like, yeah, you're just so smiley. I'm like, I don't know.
It just
But
oozes.
now, but when I see it, it's like, oh, that's what, got it. That's what they mean. It's funny. So it's funny to see. But yeah, thank you again. So everyone, uh, you know, again, if you could support Start Day One, um, the nonprofit foundation for mental health. One of the things we raise money for is really creating more content like this, so we can distribute it more and help people change their perspective from dreaming of one day to starting day one. And another way is because we try to send speakers out because we want to proactively help people. And a lot of these venues, schools, military bases, they're very reactive and they like wait until something bad happens. So we want to take care of that. But yeah, so Maureen, we're going to be looking out to you. We're going to keep you in our list for people to call if we, want to get some speakers to go out somewhere. And, so that's what we try to raise money for. So there's no excuses of it's not in our budget crap, you know?
Love that. I love that.
Yeah, thank
It's a great
you.
cause, and everybody knows someone who's been affected, whether it was depression or worst case scenario suicide, but mental
Yeah,
health in general. We all know someone. We've all possibly been there. So what a
yeah,
great cause for. Let's start day one. Let's go proactive. Let's do
yeah.
preventative so we don't end up in this suicidal epidemic that we've been in. Let's
Oh my God, it's
reverse it. Let's
best,
reverse this trend, guys. And,
right?
volunteer, contribute. I would love to see this be so successful. And
Thank
Ricardo,
you.
you're amazing. You're a
Duh.
shining light in this world, and I'm so happy to have been able to connect with you and I'm
Yeah, no, definitely. And you never know. You might have to come back and have another discussion because after this pandemic, we'll see what happens, because I think we're going to be seeing a lot of bad things happening, loss.
No,
Because I don't
no,
think it's well,
don't
it
let
hasn't hit people
that.
yet. It's bound to happen. It's not a maybe. It's like it's bound to happen. And so to me, I'm just like, well, let's get ready for it. We got to get it out there.
Yeah.
So, but
Well,
yeah. So thank you.
be resources for everyone. I'm here, and I will, anyone that reaches out, I'm here. And
Yeah,
even
let
if
me
it's
put that back on for you. So lifecoachmaureen.com, everybody. So don't wait. Get on it. All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you again, Maureen. See you
Thank
guys. Hope you guys liked and enjoyed that. And until next time.
Bye.